is here. That's right, the champ is here. Loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, with second to none. Well, this week, guess what? This week, guess what? This week, guess what? I'm my own guest. And this week, I will be talking about something that a lot of people don't know anything about. Well, of course they don't. That's the reason why you're listening to the Commish Radio Show. We're going to be talking about the Ukraine. Yeah, I know you think you know everything about it. You've seen it on the news. You've seen it on YouTube, where you can catch me, Ed Gray 1906, and also you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram there as well. We want you to subscribe to that channel because, hey, some people, they are haters. I'm not going to mention no names, but if I was going to mention any names, I would say that a lot of times when you're talking about controversial things, you'll get shadow banned. Hopefully, this week, we won't be shadow banned. You know, I put on Facebook the other day, well, this morning is the other day, I put on Facebook the fact that in the Ukraine, no blacks are allowed. It's only whites allowed. And you say, well, what the hell is he talking about? He's bringing up that old racial stuff again. No, I'm not. It's not old. It happened last week. It happened last week. It happened last week because we've had some African students and people that actually live in the Ukraine, been living there for years. They can't get out. Yeah, I had a sister trying to get out of Ukraine. Couldn't get out. They said that we're not allowing you to get out. We're only allowing Ukrainians to get out. And she said, hey, look, I got my pass. I've been here for years. That's what it is. Now, I put on Instagram, well, a few minutes ago, I put on black Russians. And someone said, well, what the hell are you talking about, black Russians? I ain't talking about the drink. I'm talking about there black people actually live in Russia. Yeah, look it up. Look it up. One of the greatest poets in Russian history is black. I'm not going to tell you who it is, and this is no joke. Also, black Germans. There are black Germans as well. Look those up as well. But hey, we're talking about the Ukraine today. We're also talking about America. Now I know you're saying, I'm tired of this Ukrainian crisis. Why don't Biden get it together? Biden did not, he didn't invade the Ukraine. But you're blaming Biden for it because the gasoline costs more. As Dr. Martin Luther King once said, we live in a world in which everyone is connected. So if they have Russian gas, which clearly they do, they have Russian oil, which clearly they do, when it's cut off, well, the prices will go up. It's just simple as that. Anybody knows that. But did you know that we had a president, speaking of presidents, we had a president by the name of Donald Trump. Yep, I'm going to say his name this time. Donald Trump, that was a big fan of Vladimir Putin. Yeah. Autocrats always align themselves together. That's a big fancy word meaning strong-arm dictators. Now, the Republican Party, I guess they like strong-arm dictators. I guess they probably like Vladimir Putin. Well, I don't know about you, and I don't know about the other people in the Republican Party, but what would have happened if Trump was president and Vladimir Putin had invaded the Ukraine? What would have happened? Well, we don't know what would have happened there, but we do know what Trump thinks of Putin. Angelo, I always got Angelo by my side. World champion fighters have world champion people in that corner. Angelo, hey, go ahead and play that Donald Trump Stable Genius clip.
So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. That's the strongest peace force. We could use that on our southern border. That's the strongest peace force I've ever seen. There were more army tanks than I've ever seen. They're going to keep peace all right. No, but think of it. Here's a guy who's very savvy. I know him very well, very, very well.
And the Washington Post put it this way tonight. Trump's reaction to Putin's invasion of Ukraine is exactly as you'd expect. His characteristic.
He thinks he's a genius. Well, I guess stable geniuses think other people are geniuses too. What genius attitude could that have been? When you have a country that invades another country and a president sings the praises of the person who invaded, never before has happened. Never before has happened. But then again, we've never elected an apprentice president before. But now you know. You see, the Ukraine is like the bread basket of Europe. I'm going to give you a little history about the Ukraine. It used to be part of the Soviet Union. Yeah, you already know this stuff. And Vladimir Putin wants to restructure the Soviet Union and bring it back together again. But Ukraine wants to be part of the West. Well, like other countries want to be part of the West, like East Germany now is part of the West. Poland is part of the West. So, you know, Russia now is beginning to say we're beginning to become totally surrounded by people in the West. So now they're saying we can't have that. So Putin decides to invade the Crimea, which was Russian speaking. Okay, got it. Everybody like, okay, never mind. You good. You just want to, do flex and everything. We'll let you make it. You good. So he said, hey, y'all let me make it on that one. I'm getting ready to make it on this one. The Ukraine is a very big country. Now I know when you see the maps and everything, they show the maps of the Ukraine and they show where Russia's coming in and they coming in there, they coming in, coming in there. You go like, wow, it's a little bitty country. No, it's not a little bitty country. They have 46 million people in that country. That's not little. It's not little. And it's big as the state of Texas. Now, we like to pride ourselves in Texas as being big, but it is big as the state of Texas. So it's not a small area. Not a small area indeed, but it's also known as the bread basket of Europe. Most of the bread and rice and all that stuff come from Ukraine to feed Europe. That's the reason why everyone in Europe is, they all uptight and everything. That's sort of like being if Iowa, Illinois, they decided that, hey, they couldn't grow no wheat or anything like that. So now that's the problem. Now, so expect this to happen as well. Yeah, you thought it was over with. What about the gas? You thought it was over about the gas. That's Russia. We're not taking our gas. We're not spending no money with them. But now the Ukraine, they're not sending their wheat and everything to the rest of Europe. So the rest of Europe don't get no wheat. They don't get the oil. That stuff go up. The prices of everything there go up. And it's always a trickling effect. Yeah, it is. Rich people always follow who? They don't follow people like me. They follow other rich people. So rich Americans get kind of uptight because the economy is getting kind of uptight. So they look over to Europe and they say, we're in a tight. Everybody tightening up. Everyone's tightening up. But who is really in a tight? Who's really in a tight are students, black and white students. And I'm going to focus on the black students here because they're the most visible ones, because they're the ones that obviously don't look Ukrainian. Yeah, they don't look Ukrainian. And you say, well, why the hell are they there anyway? They're there because we have people who go all over the world for education. And they went to the Ukraine to get an education so they could go back to Africa. I heard that one before. But they can go back to Africa with their education to do something for their country in Africa. But they're living in a state, the Ukraine ain't, it's not really a progressive state. And I mean state, a country for black folk. Angelo, I know you've been doing some research, sir. Do you have a clip or something that we can prove to the people at home? Because I know they're tired of looking at me talk about this as if I know everything. What you got? Heard it. That wasn't me. That wasn't me just making up stuff. That's that brother, man. You know, where did he say he was from? The Congo. Yeah, you got it. When I said the best radio show from Como to the Congo, that proves the point right there. That's also the reason why I'm having this show, because there was this brother who I went to school with at SMU who said, I'm glad you're talking about this because someone has to talk about this. Because no one's talking about this. No one's talking about this because it doesn't fit the narrative. We all know the narrative, right? Vladimir Putin decides to go ahead and invade the Ukraine. Everyone's trying to get the hell out. And, you know, we're all, you know, crying about this, which we all should. But we're not also realizing that some people are being stuck there. They're doing a trek all the way across the Ukraine to other countries to where they're being told, as Flavor Flav would say, I can't do nothing for you, man. That's what they're saying. Can't do nothing for you. So they're being stuck. And they're also being used. They're being used as a way to be put on the front lines, like that young man was talking about. He was talking about, hey, you're going to die for Ukraine. You can be here, but you're going to die for the Ukraine because they need bodies. They need bodies. But that's what they need. And what we need to do is to make sure that we know the truth. Now, I'm not saying that what's going over there is it's good, because hell, it's not. Only one person's in the United States has said that. And if we'll play the clip again, which would have Donald Trump, we don't need to play it again, but if we were to play it again, then you would have heard who that person is. That person is Donald Trump. He said, well, hey, the guy was genius. But we know it's not genius. But what we also do know is that when it comes to refugees, that it has to fit the narrative. And the narrative on this is whites only. Yep, whites only. But human beings are human beings. There's no such thing as a white human being. There's no such thing as a black human being. It's a human being. So we have to do something about that. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is play the next drop, and then I come back and I talk to you a little bit about that. And then after that, we'll do our traditional commercial radio show drops. Okay? Let's play it.
I was begging. The official literally looked at me and said,
All right, we're back again. This I'm reading some of the comments we're getting right now. I like to say hello to a couple of people that are running. I have some elected officials that are looking right now, and Eric Wilson says, thank you for talking about this issue. This is only the third time I've heard someone talk about this issue. The third time. Well, I guess it's the charm, right? This is the reason why we talk about this on the Commission Radio Show. Loved by many, hated by few, respected by all, with second to none. I know we just got through covering all of the local campaigns, but, you know, we're global here. You know, Fishbowl Radio Network, we pride ourselves on being global. So therefore, I make it global. You know, it's cool to be local, but I'm global. But that's what we do right here. We get ready to play some of our drops, our local drops. Hey, you see how tied that one in there? Our local drops from some of our radio colleagues here. And when I come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Ukraine.
Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That was no masked man. That was the commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
This is your community constable, Bill Gibson, representing Garland, Mesquite, Rowlett, Saxe, Centerville, and East Dallas in Precinct 2, Dallas County. And you are tuned into The Commish with Ed Gray.
This is John Crizel, your Democratic candidate for District Attorney for Dallas County. Thank you to The Commish and Ed Gray and The Commish Radio Show.
Hey, you know, whenever I want good Cajun food, I go to Thibodeau's, located at 107 North Cedar Ridge in Duncanville, Texas. They're really hot, just like the Commish Radio Show in Thibodeau's. Hot as this gumbo. We will see you later at Thibodeau's.
All right, back again, Thibodeau's. It looks like it's Mardi Gras time. It looks like I have to go to Thibodeau's. As I often said that, hey, you don't have to spend all your dough at Papa Do's. Share it a little bit. Go to Thibodeau's. Yeah, I call Papa Do's out. I mean, I'm going to Papa Do's, but I'm just not going to spend all my money there. You know, what can I say? But between you and I, what we're here about this radio show here is making sure that everyone gets the word out. When it comes down to the Ukraine crisis, and the Ukraine crisis is long coming. You know, they've been trying to invade. They've invaded the Ukraine on a couple of occasions. But the Ukraine is a Slavic country. I know people going like, what the hell is he talking about? Slavic country. Spell it out. S-L-A-V-I-C. Slavic. You know, like Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Moldova, you know, Bosnia, Herzegovina, you know, hey, those countries, Slavic countries. But these Slavic countries also have been known to be ethno-nationalist countries. Another big fancy word, ethno-nationalist, which means only me. Not me, but only me. If you are Croatian, only a Croatian. If you are a Bosnian, only a Bosnian. If you are Ukrainian, only Ukrainian. And that type of attitude has been permeated through the way the Ukrainian government is doing African students. Now, I'm shocked and amazed, and I'm always, because I'm an American. America always leads the nation in being shocked and amazed. But I'm shocked and amazed about this, because when we talk about refugees, they say now over 1.5 million Ukrainian refugees have fled the Ukraine to go to the West, so to speak. Poland is not the West, but they want to make it. That's the West. We'll never make it. But they say that because the Russians invaded and it was war. Go figure. It was war. A couple of years passed, the Russian government sponsored the Syrian government to do exactly what the Russians are doing now. Cluster bombs, those kind of things. You know what a cluster bomb is? That's when a bomb bursts and then it bursts into other bombs. After that, before it hits the ground, it bursts into some more bombs. And you have bomblets. And these bomblets, you got like a multitude of bombs. Well, they did that in Syria, and the Syrian people said that, hey, look, we need to leave. We need to leave. So they got on all these boats. They went across the Mediterranean Sea, and countries like Italy and Greece turned them back. Refugees turned them back. Because guess what? Their skin color wasn't white. No, it wasn't. No blacks allowed. Or if you're pretty close to it, you can't come here neither. If you're Arab, oh, you can't come here either. So they turned everybody back at the border. And now you have issues there. And it was the ethno-nationalist people who did that. They have them all over the countries. Not just one. They have them all over. In Greece, they killed one young man whose family I know personally. That was on the news. I think we covered that a couple of weeks back. They did that. That happened in Greece. Greece. Ukraine. This form of white supremacy is not just a white supremacy local thing. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Yeah, I worked that one in there. Phenomenon. Sort of like what's the song say? I'm like a phenomenon. Yeah, that's what that's about. White supremacy said that. I'm like a phenomenon. So that's what happened on that. So now we got that going on now all across the world. Now, I know black folk always talk about, man, I go here, I ain't gonna have no problem. I go here, I ain't have no problem. You have problems. But it's not just the fact you're black, it's the fact that you're not in. That's it. You're not in. So what we want you to do, as this show is always about, we want you to do something about it. Not just listen to me. We want you obviously to listen to me, but share it. Share it to other people. And if you feel like you want to do something about it, send something to the UN and tell the UN, hey, we support Ukraine, but we don't support that. We don't support that. If we're going to be right about one thing, we can't choose what we're going to be right and wrong about. So I'm about being right. I'm supporting the Ukraine. Don't get me wrong. I'm supporting the Ukraine because they shouldn't have been invaded. But I'm also supporting people who want to get out to get out. Because on the borders of Poland, on the borders of those countries where black people have walked and caught the bus, and they literally caught the bus and the trains and everything. As soon as they get ready to leave, they can't leave. You just heard it from Jessica, the young lady who said that she walked for miles and miles and miles, and they didn't leave her. They didn't let her leave. But then we also have other Africans that are there who are beaten at the hands of the ethno-nationalists because now they feel like displaced anger. I know you got that clip of the ethno-nationalists right there. I think it's a good time for us to play that one. The boxing one, yes.
And it seemed a way to spend a Saturday, watching the blood sports at a festival for far-right extremists. This was the summer of 2019, and I'd gone to Ukraine to learn more about these groups. From the crowds, one thing seemed pretty clear about them. They weren't bothered by the fact that this event was organized by the Azov movement, a far-right group that has increasingly been linked to violence around the world.
The shooter is linked to a 74-page manifesto filled with white supremacist rhetoric.
FBI agents say he expressed a desire to travel to Ukraine to fight with a far-right paramilitary group.
At least one member of an American hate group also trained in Ukraine with Azov Battalion.
According to the FBI, domestic terrorists killed 39 people in fiscal year 2019, making it the most deadly year for domestic terrorism since the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing.
The threat of white nationalism has evolved since Oklahoma City, where a domestic terrorist used a truck bomb to kill at least 168 people. Police don't tend to see such terrorists as lone wolves acting in isolation anymore.
All right. Lone wolves not living in isolation. You know, that's what we're talking about. This whole war is not a lone wolf war living in isolation. You know, what's going to end up happening, and we all know what's going to happen. Sooner or later, the Ukraine will fall. And we don't want it to fall. We don't. But they're going against the Russian army. It's not an easy thing. It's going to happen. And eventually, sooner or later, America will take in Ukrainian refugees like everybody else is. We're going to do it. And it's only right that we do, because we believe in America in which everyone gets that opportunity to come here. And sooner or later, we're going to have what normally happens when we take in other countries. And yes, we do. We take in other countries because we love humanity. But there's a darker side to humanity, and we just saw it just a minute ago. We're going to take in those people who are ethno-nationalists who do those things that we just described over there, and they're going to do them over here. And we don't want that to happen neither. But what are the cards that we have on the table? What do we have to do to make sure that this doesn't happen? Well, one of the things that we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen is we need to make sure that when we have people to come here to this country, that they believe that everyone is here is free, regardless of color, regardless of previous stature in life, meaning that over there they believe if your family had this kind of money, then, well, you're better than these other people over here that don't. But what I want us all to know and do something is to realize that this Ukrainian crisis is a crisis also in black and white. And this black and white crisis doesn't need to happen. What needs to happen is people who shouldn't be fighting, which Africans shouldn't be fighting, obviously, for the Ukrainian government if they weren't thought to be Ukrainian, if they were done wrong in their host country of the Ukraine, they shouldn't have to die for it. They should be allowed to leave. We have refugees who we are welcoming into European countries, and we also have refugees that we are allowing them to be led like a lamb to slaughter. We don't need that. We don't need that in the Ukraine, and we don't need that in the United States. As we get ready to go to a close, I was informed that one of my good friends, Howard Scott, he has a radio show up here. You probably heard it, Howard Scott Show. If you haven't, you probably heard some of his music. He was the originator and founder of War. Yeah, War, the group War. I was over his house this morning. Oh, Angelo, you should have seen me, man. I was sitting there chilling with Howard Scott, man. He was playing on his guitar and gave me a little concert this morning, man. We're going to be hanging out later on this evening. But Angelo told me, he said that War went to outer space. No. Before you get to tripping and everything, I'm not talking about, Star Wars, that kind of thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about NASA put the song Why Can't We Be Friends and blasted it out in space to Russia. Sort of like that song Love Train by the OJs, tell all the folks in Russia and Egypt too. And we need that today. We also need that in the Ukraine. Facebook always try to shadow ban people. Yeah, I know it. We play the music, then all of a sudden you don't even hear it. I understand. But even to Facebook, I like to say, why can't we be friends? That's the same thing we need to do all across Europe today. All this fighting must end. All of the wars must end. Even blowing up a nuclear reactor. Damn. Russia? What? Well, Commish Radio Show, we're about to leave. But why can't we be friends? Let's play it, Angela. Hey, how you doing? This is Ed Gray of the Commish Radio Show. Stay tuned and tune in and be up to speed on everything in social justice, human rights, and politics on the Commish Radio Show, airing every Saturday, 5 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Jump in. Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That was no masked man. That was the Commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network.